Hey everyone, how you doing? Well, still waiting to get on YouTube. I'm going to read a book that Luke McCollin wrote as the author of Divide. It's called From a Dark Horizon, a Gregory Reinhardt novel. As the Great War lurches towards its bloody end, the horrific crime behind the lines sends Lieutenant Gregory Reinhardt on a search for a murderer in the electrifying thriller from the author of The Man from Berlin. July 1918, 4 years of grinding trenches warfare has warped more than one man's mind when a secret meeting of the commanders of the German Army 256th Division is called. Someone set off a bomb that killed nearly all the attendants. It seems certain that one of the men of Lieutenant Gregory Reinhardt company is the murderer. But since that man is dead, and the general is looking for someone who shares the blame, Reinhardt must prove his trooper's innocence if he hopes to avoid the fate of a co-conspirator. Reinhardt may not be the professional detective, but he has the instinct of one. His search for the answer leads him deep into the potential conspiracy populated by multiple soldiers and mysterious Russian noblemen and pair of doctors who may be up to nothing more sinister than treating battlefield injuries. War is hell, but never more so than when you don't know whether the real enemy is in front of or next to you. So, I'm going to read that. Berkeley Books by Luke McCollin. The Man of Berlin, The Pill House, The Divided City, and From the Dark Horizon. Those are the three. Those are the titles. From a Dark Horizon. Berkeley, New York. Luke McCollin. If I say it. For my great uncle's Second Lieutenant Alfred Brookbanks Percy, 1895 to 1976, the 5th Battalion, Yorkshire Regiment, the Green Howards, wounded in action in the Somme in September 1916. Corporal Herbert Stein, 1896 to 1968, Army Service Corps, invalid out of East Africa, and who regale my father with stories of spending a night in a bush by his broken down lorry. Private Michael Walsh, 1898-1964. Irish Guard, wounded in action, March and August 1918. And Patrick and John Walsh, brothers, born in 1892 and 1896, both killed in action in 1916. Too many whose stories have now been lost. In the 17th Persian, Gregory Reinhardt, a young lieutenant, Sergeant Rudolph Brewer is Reinhardt's company. Captain Bordeaux Goldhaus, second in command of the 17th Reinhardt Company commander. Colonel Thomas Missener, commander of the 17th. Sergeant Wally Steller, a man of the 17th with left-wing conversions. Bog Dorkman, the 3rd Musketeer, close to Saddle. Ryzen Top Olberg, Cossack survivor of the Russian campaign. Lieutenant Marcus Dreyer, Quartermaster Lieutenant Alderster and Tulsa, Corporal Kosman, older soldier. In the 256th Division, Major General Otto Hostel, commanding the 256th, Colonel Otto Weidon, his deputy, Captain Gerbel Asteen, Hostel Aide de Camp, Dr. Oster Blankfein, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Dussel, Division Medical Officer, Lieutenant Crane, Feldumgum. I can't say it. So a lot of in German. Part 1. The burned child dreads the fire. The western front near the village of Ville-sur-Dure, northwest of France, mid-July 1918. They came for Reinhardt as he was sleeping, the door crushing open in confusion of the man of the voice that snapped him awake. A shadow loomed over him. He lunged for Messer atop the chest by his bed, only to have a hand clap down painfully on his wrist. Lieutenant Reinhardt, someone shone a torch down on him. He blinked the lights of his eyes, turning his head away, and sense of wide shoulder lining glinting on the rim of the helmet. Get that bloody light out of my face. Lieutenant Reinhardt, the voice asked again, the hand passing down harder. Reinhardt took his other hand out from his underneath his pillow, moving slowly and pushed firmly. The light flickered away, and the hand lifted from his arm. Reinhardt saw a Feldrum, a military police, a sergeant built like a beer barrel, standing over him. The policeman was blinking down at the little pistol Reinhardt had pushed into his groin. The sergeant left the pressure. Reinhardt's hand stopped back carefully. Apologize for waking you, said the lieutenant, stepping into a view. Make it sound like you mean it, Reinhardt said as he shifted himself up and swung his legs out of bed, lowering the pistol and levering the safety catch down against the grip. Behind the lieutenant stood two more sergeants, the police and sergeant. What time is it? Not far off 3 in the morning, answered the lieutenant. For Christ's sake, Lieutenant. Reinhardt tossed the pistol on his pillow and collapsed back into his bed, and the arms crossed his face. Who are you, and what do you want? Lieutenant, you are the commanding officer of Private Wally Settler. Reinhardt hauled himself back up, paused as he began threading his arms into his shirt. What he's done now. Now, Kranz, repeat. Wally, a man committed to enter the war. Private Settler accused of murdering the lieutenant. It's no joking matter. Murder, Reinhardt, repeat. Who? Never mind that. What do you mean? Private Settler was confined to quarters, wasn't he? Who told you that? What's going on? Lieutenant Ulster told us where to find you. He did. That officer Little, officialist Little, the rest Reinhardt words swallow, as he levered the shirt over his head and Sergeant Brewer coughed loudly. But be quiet and answer my question, Lieutenant Reinhardt. Things are going fast that way. Kranz looked barely older than Reinhardt, and he looked like a rough man. But the uniform was spotless next to the filthiest that creased Reinhardt, where it was dropped over to the chair by his bed. Now Reinhardt could not help feeling that the twist of the contempt that the infantry had for those who fought in the war at the rear. Besides, however irritated it was, Reinhardt felt the urge to needle him and ulster when he got his hand on a creep. Yes, Private Sutler is confined to his quarters. What was he confined for quarters for? Disobeying. Private Sutler was a pioneer in your platoon. Is that right? Yes. What did you mean was? You're answering my question, Lieutenant. Not me. Yours a pioneer, familiar with explosive demolition, things like that. Things that goes bang, Lieutenant, exactly, said Reinhardt, unable to keep the contempt from his voice. I am starting to see where the Private Settler got his attitude. Look, Krantz, if you don't start answering my question, it will be easier to show me, Lieutenant. Get dressed. What I'm trying to do, said Reinhardt, hopping from one leg to another as he pulled his trousers on. Will you at least tell me what has happened to Settler? Private Settler has been taking his own life and his lives of several field soldiers. Reinhardt paused as he swung his jacket in one hand, patting his pocket for the letter from home. What? Why? Because he has blown up a house full of officers, Lieutenant. The house had once been something grand, a manor house, but perhaps the seat of a land family with roots of tradition, but that was all over now. The house had been blown up, a great crack like a triangle with its point on the ground running across one of the walls. The front door had been blown off its hinge, and forecourt was covered shards of glass and stone, some fear with mortar. Now Reinhardt turned where he stood in the house forecourt, in the smoke of the cigar spiraling up away from him. The coming dawn shred the eastern horizon with a band of lemon, but the moon still hung clear as a coin in the sky, with a clear, clean sparkle of stars. Beneath of all the edge of angles of the world lay softened beneath a blanket of moist. The house was part of a wider farm complex, a century-old triangle of building sheds, barns, and walls. The plot of land to the east of the village. The whole farm had been given over to training range, where the stormtroopers practiced their tactical and run training courses for officers and sergeants. There was a mock trench network to be assaulted and defended. Where were the walls to climb, obstacles overcome, ruin to navigate, covered to the salt of use. There was stonehouse, workshops, armories. There were firing range. It was all quite, though, the Prendergast had closed the place down. Guards posted at the entrance. This house had stood alone in the shelter of the copse of old trees. It was at the end of the strip of the road of hard-packed mud that wounded up from the farm proper through unkept vines that still kept their rows in sad triangles, and down which ran a pair of rut like train tracks. Reinhardt knew the house was the place where the officers among the stormtroopers had heard literature, conduct, tabletops, training, exercise, taking a little rest when it was offered. It had a comfortable feeling to it. The walls were rather smooth, massive beams of the room showing the varnish shine of the century. The house had come through the war relative unscathed, despite having been occupied by French, then the Germans, the French again, and now the Germans once more. Artillery spotters had once nested in the roof when the front lines had been closer as the house stood. On the slight rise, the countryside unfurling in all directions around. From the backside, beside the front door, Lieutenant Oster peered at him over the flat tops of his spectacles. Operation officer looked like a typical schoolmaster. He once was in suit to the work he did. He had 10 years on Reinhardt, but some rank and that had to wrinkle about bloody time, Reinhardt. I came as quick as I could. Seeing you asked so nicely, why are you here anyway? Duty Officer Reinhardt, you might remember there is such a thing. Vogel. What was going on then? Your man finally cracked, is what happened. What are you talking about? Come on, express a mobile fascination at your men. Handiwork. I might express the fascination if I knew what the F everyone so quite to blame him for. Reinhardt snapped. Ulster blinked. Voices fell silent. Now, Ulster, it was better to get your hits in quick and sharp. Reinhardt had found. Else he would not stop with the drip drip of his little acid comet. Ulster flushed, bad blood well out. Reinhardt, that what they said, what does that mean? Bombing? A terrorist thing? An eastern thing? Ballistic thing? Didn't all you eastern get all close and personal to that? What do you mean? He asked, again lighting a cigar. It means all you easterners brought bad habits with you. We had none of this before you arrived. Reinhardt blew the smoke strong at Oyster. What does this mean? He repeated slowly, holding the other man's gaze. You're Easterner. I'm from the East. Do you see me throwing bombs around other than at French? Sergeant Brewer is from the East. Shall we call him over? Oyster plead, I am sure. There's no need, Reinhardt. How about Colonel Messner? Reinhardt continued. Shall we ask the Colonel for his politic opinion? Oyster blinked and seemed he regained himself quite. The Colonel, yes, I am sure. Sure, but wouldn't be necessary, Reinhardt. He smiled, a quick flash at his teeth. Rumors are flying. Oyster finished weakly. His weak. There's not much to see inside, Reinhardt saw as he and Brewer, Paul, Oyster, and Crane. Something like a bomb had indeed gone off inside, in the big kitchen area, which had been the center of the house. It had been a comfortable room, running almost the length of the building. A huge stone fireplace had warmed it, and a thick stone wall had kept out of the cold in the winter, and the heat in the summer. It was shambles now, a sprawl of smashed furniture, the remains of the kitchen long table of heavy wood, scattered like a broken shipwreck. There was a blast damage on the walls, and the big timber of the ceiling had their darkness of centuries scored off. The place stunk of smoke and fire, explosives, and enough blood that had spilled here that its iron tag was plain. Dark stains damped the floor. Walls, blood that had congealed into smears, streaks, bubbled, and whirled so that light broke glittering across them. Breath and stinks of the blasted blood was soaring smell of spills of alcohol and contagious homely. Severe crates of wine had been appended, some of the bottles, laying smashed in dark puddles. Quite seen, wouldn't you agree? Kranz asked Reinhardt. Exchange a quick glance with Brewer. Kranz radiate satisfaction and a vague sense of pride. His profession, but had not seen many battlefields, if he considered this quite the scene. Arbok, Brewer called. Any idea? Now, Brewer had sent Orbruk when a word came in. He was one of the pioneers in Reinhardt's company. Combat engineer, expert demolition, experienced explosives. Former coal miner, Orbruk was a wide, heavy man with hands like shovel, and like so many men of his size, he was a slow gentleman. Carefully with his strength, it was all bit confusing, sir, and you never can tell for sure. Something went off there. Sure enough, he said, pointing out the blackened resin in the flagstone floor. Everything seems to have been blown apart and away from there, like it was a wreck of high tide across the floor and up against the wall, the corners. Think you can tell what it was that did this? Orbruk's mouth twisted as a marshal. His words could be a bomb. Krantz scuffled, but Orbruk plowed on. Couldn't be a demolition charge of some sort. But, like I said, sir, you can never tell for sure. Wouldn't be able to tell until all this is cleared up in a bit of time to go over. Start picking up fragments of whatnot. Fragments? Osher said, there's all over the place. Good luck making sense out of this. Would you be surprised, Osher, that sense you can make out of a place like this, if only you know how to look, and if only you want to say, Reinhardt, what are you implying? Oyster splattered its previous, honestly, what kind, and pretty obvious who did it. If you say no, Reinhardt says, dismissive, ignoring the bloom of the red on the oyster's face. Does it look like shelter would work? Or, he asked Oyster. The pioneer ducked his head down, hunching away from Oyster, looking miserable. Well, I'm going to stop there. I know it's hard for me to talk how they're saying German stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.